Right. Welcome, everybody, here. My name is Darren Schneider. I'm the director for advanced recording here at Full Sail University, in case you guys didn't know. We also want to welcome our live streaming guests who are in the web, could be anywheres. They're in the live streaming world. There is a chat room, so if you guys that are watching this on the streaming want to ask questions, you can type it into the chat, and we will have somebody translate your question to us. We have a very special guest here with us today. We are very honored. I'm sure all of you guys kind of already know what's going on, but we have one of the newest Grammy-winning mix engineers here today to talk to you guys a little bit about what it's like to be a mix engineer and what it's like to kind of live in the world. And I don't want to take up any more of his time, so let's introduce Leslie Brathwaite.
Sup. Aha. Well, I need one of those.
I think you have one of those.
Hey, guys. What's up?
So crazy couple weeks for Leslie. Maybe we could take a second. We got a lot to kind of go over, but maybe take a second and tell us what it's like to be sitting in your shoes right now.
It is like I'm in daddy daycare world, I'm in studio world, I'm in Grammy world, I'm in Pharrell's world, and we got a new puppy. I got the girls a puppy for Christmas, so I'm in puppy world.
Right.
That's what my shoes are like.
So just so you guys know, Leslie's not the only award winner in his family. Today.
Yes, my little 5-year-old Zoe had her first spelling bee this morning. And she won.
Here for Zoe.
First place. So I was pretty proud of her. And what I was most proud of her, and this, everything is a message with me, but this kind of applies to you guys too, is she came to me a couple weeks ago and she said, "Daddy, I really want to win the spelling bee." And I told her, I said, "Well, you got to work at it." And every day for the past couple of weeks, she's been in her words and studying her words, and she didn't want to play with anything when she gets home from school. She wants to study her words, and she was really determined to be number one in that spelling bee. So I was really, really proud of that. And that's something that I think we all can learn from the kids. So,
Absolutely. So the interesting thing that I thought was kind of interesting about this is you guys obviously knew that the record was going to be one of the major contenders, at the Grammys. But maybe you can tell everybody where you were while the Grammys were going on.
While the Grammys were going on, I was in Atlanta mixing a Gwen Stefani record. Pharrell is, I think he's executive producing her album. They're real chummy, so he's like doing the whole album. And so I'm mixing her album right now, amongst a couple of other things. I'm like bounce, with Pro Tools, I can close the session, open something else. I can bounce from thing to thing. So I'm like working on like 5 things in one night.
When did you guys actually record? Well, I know you were mixing basically, but I know you were involved heavily in the production of Happy, obviously. More so than just mixing. I mean, you had a lot of judgment calls that Pharrell gave you on that. When did you guys start that song? Just to give people an idea of how long it really takes this stuff to unfold.
That was like 2 years ago, I believe. So not this past summer, but the summer before is when we were actually, and I think even that Christmas of whatever year that was, is when we were working on it.
Right.
And then it came out 2 summers ago.
Yeah. So it's the instant gratification thing doesn't really.
No.
Absolutely.
You gotta work. Gotta work. Yeah.
So before we get too much into the more modern thing of mixing, because things are changing for you pretty quickly. They're really. You went from primarily doing records to a lot of movie stuff right now. A lot of movie stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of changing your world a little bit. But let's go back to the old days of mixing and mixing on analog consoles. And when you transferred and when you started moving, I know the recall, right? But when was this like major transformation into this new style of mixing? Because it was rather jolting to everybody.
I would say probably in the late 90s is when you kind of saw more and more things being primarily driven by Pro Tools. And then for me, the transformation mixing in the box strictly, that kind of came around maybe around I would say probably about 5 years ago, maybe about 5, 6 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. So for me, it's a relatively new, process, but I mean, it doesn't feel new to me. It feels like I've been doing it the whole time.
Right.
But for me, it's important to evolve and stay. As you know, it's important to stay evolved and really stay up on the latest technology and new stuff. And as much as I come here to teach you guys things, I learn from you guys. And all the new stuff that you're learning in class now, I'm kind of soaking up knowledge as well. So
Yeah, and so you're trying to keep as current as you can with
Yes.
everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sure your world's changed quite a bit from we just do stereo mixes to now I need the surround 5.1,
Yeah.
10.2, when you do movie stuff.
Exactly. They're asking for a bunch of different stems, and they want. Now it's to the point where because they know we can, they damn near ask for every instrument to be stemmed out separately. Like they're like, "Can we get the kick, and then we'll leave you alone?" And then they call me back and be like, "Can we get the kick and the snare, and then we'll leave you alone?" And then they call back, and that morphs into.
Well, and that's part of why this is so critical now is
Yeah.
that, it could be the day before the song comes out and they're literally calling you going, hey,
Yes.
can you recall and punch the vocals up 2 dB and then send them to us?
Yes. So in the analog world, the things I had to do with this most recent with the Paddington Bear movie, Pharrell had a song on there with Gwen Stefani on that soundtrack, and the changes we went through with that song, and the amount of time in a week's worth of time, that song went through so many different changes. It's ridiculous.
So maybe give these guys an idea of who's calling you to make the changes, how major or minute the changes are. Maybe give these guys an idea. This is something that's becoming more prevalent in the mix world. We used to mix songs. We do a vocal up, vocal down, send it off, master, done.
No, not,
now
not so easy.
Yeah, now it's a whole different ballgame.
With that particular song, one of the biggest things that kind of kept rocking the scales was originally No Doubt, the group that Gwen Stefani was in. And for those of you who might not, do y'all know who Gwen Stefani is?
Yeah.
I gotta check because
Hope you guys do,
the young generation. Sometimes I say things and y'all like, huh? So she used to be in a group, for those of you who don't know, called No Doubt. And so they're basically a band. They play a lot of instruments. Those things you pick up and actually play. Not Fruity Loops. And so
FL Pro now.
you're right. So they played all the instruments on the original, and then the movie company somehow had some kind of legal issue with the fact that No Doubt played on the song. So then they were pressuring Pharrell to hire some other musicians to replay all the stuff that they played. So Pharrell did that, and he felt some kind of way about it because then he kind of felt like he would be pissing Gwen off, so he had to have a talk with Gwen. They had to have the little come to Jesus moment, and then it was back to that. Now they had to go massage all the egos from the No Doubt guys and be like, guys, I'm sorry, we had to take you off. And then the movie company switches their minds after he hired the other musicians, and they're like, no, we can keep No Doubt on the record.
Right.
And so it was a whole bunch of.
So there's 40 versions of that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fun for me because I get to charge them
Every time.
Every time they come back. I'm like, I was like, at one point I was doing rain dance. I was like, yes.
So, yep. Let's hit a little bit of, just give me a little precursor of what's happening right now, because you just mentioned a bunch of movies, that we were just kind of talking about back there. Kind of give these guys an idea of how many you got floating right now.
Well, we just finished these. I think the SpongeBob movie just came out. We worked on that. We've been working on that for quite a while with some of the songs in there. We are working on the Minions movie right now. And there's another kids movie that we're about to start working on soon, right after Gwen. And I can't remember what movie it is. It's like Pharrell he's 50 miles a minute.
And trust me, guys, this isn't Leslie being Eric that he doesn't remember. This is Leslie's doing so many songs at one time you can't remember. So I was bringing up the track earlier, and I said all I need, because he gave me his drive, and I was like, all I need is the song title. And he goes, I have no idea what the song's called. So
it's an R. Kelly, Chris Brown song, but I have no idea what the title is. I just got the files the other day.
Yeah. So it's while these movies, so you've got 4 or 5 major motion pictures happening at one time. Mm-hmm. While this is happening, you also have a lot of records going at the same time.
Yeah, because I got R. Kelly's manager calling me, and then I got Akon. He's doing this. outrageous project where he's doing 5 albums at once. So he's going to have an urban album, a pop album, a world album, a so-and-so album, and he's putting them all out at once. So I'm mixing all that stuff. And
so there's a lot of content. There's, just in that itself, you've got, 50, 60 songs.
And then Pharrell has a new
that
artist
he's billing
that we're
for
mixing.
each one. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then Pharrell has a new artist that we're mixing, plus Gwen Stefani stuff, plus Chris Brown. I think I got a song for him to mix when I get back home, and so it's just always just, hey, throw it at me, I'll figure it out. I'll get it.
So you have a very interesting business tactic as well, which is not the most common in our business. Most of us, when you kind of hit that pro mix level, you end up getting a manager, you get accountants, you get people that do all your billing, you get all this stuff, and you chose early on to handle your business yourself. What made you decide to do that, and what keeps you doing that?
I think it just kind of, for me, I'm the kind of guy who I like to deal with people directly, and I like to have those conversations directly, and they're not hard conversations for me to have. Some people, I think their personalities are set up to where they need a manager because they're not good at talking about money. I'm great at talking about money.
It's like, here's the fee.
We got to get to the chase.
You either paid or I'm not doing it.
Yeah, when they call me, one of the very first questions to some people are, so who's paying for this and what's the budget? Other people, I don't have to ask. When Pharrell calls me, whenever he picks up the phone and he calls me himself or his manager calls me, the first thing they tackle is budgets. And that, to me, that's professional. They want to make sure, look, I'm about to throw a whole bunch of shit in your lap.
Right.
But before we even talk about that, this is how you're going to get paid. This is how much we got in the budget, and it's usually a great amount working
with
movie
Pharrell,
stuff.
yeah, obviously.
Yeah, so it's like...
The movie companies are probably much better than the record companies.
Yeah,
as far
that's
as
like
paying
one of the
goes,
easiest conversations. I'm just like, yeah, okay. Now what?
It's another Ferrari.
So, no, it's a private school for the girls. Yeah. My priorities, things, when I was single and, when I wasn't married with 2 children, yeah, it was Ferraris and all that kind of stuff. Now it's private school and college funds. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a different world.
So you still, to this day, though, manage everything yourself.
Yes.
As far as your scheduling, keeping yourself, because you do vacation a lot. You do take time off. Obviously, you can't burn yourself out. I mean, people pay you to be fresh. People pay you as a mix engineer to be giving them the best quality. You're the last step, if you will.
Yeah, and for me, and here's one of the points that I want to drive home to all of you guys. I'm going to look each one of y'all in the eye.
And our internet guests.
Huh?
There's internet guests out there.
Oh, internet guests, where y'all
streaming.
at in the camera? On the internet. It's very important to understand this part. For me, things fall into place and they become easy because I work really hard at it, and I work really hard at being good at what I do, so that it then takes the burden off of me to still try to be good at what I'm doing. And I work really hard at this craft. I put my heart and soul into this craft. Anybody who knows me knows that. And so from that has come the ease of being able to take vacations and knowing that if I tell Pharrell, hey, look, I'm taking my family X, Y, and Z, he'll wait. Or if Beyonce or somebody calls, and they'll wait at this point in my career. And that's because I've worked for it and I worked really hard to get here. So that's one of the key, messages I like to. We can talk about all the technical stuff, but I also like to bring home these little messages to you guys.
And the people you're working with are the same. I mean, Beyonce and Pharrell are both
hard workers.
22 hours a day is not enough time.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, even, I make a lot of sports references, and anybody who's heard me talk know. A lot of times people think, you think Kobe and LeBron and all these guys and the Beyoncés of the world and the Jay-Z's, you think they just have talent and they're good. And yes, they have talent, but they work really, really hard at it. And that's something that you can develop here while you're in school. I come from the real world and mixing all the glamorous stuff to come sit here and tell you all the tedious stuff that your teachers are telling you every day, because it's important. That stuff is important. And the fundamentals and, all the stuff that I drive home, that stuff is important, and it's important to try to be extremely great at what you do, and then all that stuff falls into place.
So just before we get into the technical, I just want to cover one more real quick thing of the time frame that it took. I mean, you and I both, we pretty much graduated around the same time. We kind of came up along, with noontime and all the old Atlanta days, And one of the biggest things I think kind of gets missed now is that people assume that I can just be a mix engineer.
Right.
And maybe if you could give them a little of your background of how many years you tracked. You don't have to go into all the major detail, and we've done that on previous videos, but I think it would be great to reiterate the path. I always tell students, I don't know anybody who is a professional mix engineer who didn't track for years.
Right.
I'm sure they're out there, and you probably
I don't know any.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's two of us sitting here. Neither one of us know, but maybe give them a little of your background.
Yeah, the overall point is there's a path to it, and you can't think that you're just going to graduate from school and hit the ground running, and you come out and you got this fabulous, you went to this awesome school, and now you come out and thinking, oh, I'm about to be a mix engineer. I'm about to be Leslie at day 2. No, this is me 22, 23 years later. And so it's a process. And it's, I came out straight out of school. I was interning. I was running to get coffee and food and clean up the studio and clean toilets. And I did whatever I had to do to stay around that building and learn from people who were better than me. And the one thing I always tell students, I just answered this question when we were in the meeting upstairs. One of the instructors asked me, what do you tell students when they first get out of school? Shut the up when you go in the studio. That's simple. Be quiet. Go in and learn. Yes, you went to school. Yes, you paid for a degree. You paid a hell of a lot for your degree, but you still got a lot to learn. It's a process. And from interning, I went to being an assistant. Before we even get to tracking, I was a recording assistant, and I would sit there and patch cables all day and align tape machines. And of course, now it's a different world. But it's still, the assistant role is still prevalent, where you get to work up under somebody and learn their craft, and then you take the next step and you record, and through recording you learn about what not to do, how the sound affects. How things affect the sound, and you learn so much stuff being a recording engineer, even before you get to being a mix engineer. So it's a process. It's not you just come out of school and be what you always dreamed of being. This is a step in the process.
And this was literally, everybody mixes as they're tracking, but the transition, and when we talk about a professional mix engineer, we talk about, you are too busy mixing to record.
Right.
And this is a decade down the road for you, roughly?
Yeah, about that, 10 years.
Which is very common in the business, and that's kind of one of the things we like to just kind of, hit home with it, that, mixing is definitely one of the more difficult things that we do, just because we don't get the do-over. It's
exactly.
Whatever you did on Happy is what the world was going to hear. And there was, assuming the mastering guys aren't completely. That's a whole nother story.
No, Ruben, the guy who mastered it, Ruben Korn, he did a fantastic job. He did.
Okay, so let's get into a little bit of the technical.
Okay.
If you guys have questions while this is going on, feel free to interrupt us. There's definitely mics floating around. We're going to do a Q&A thing, but if Leslie's talking about maybe like something he did on a track or anything like that, feel free to just, kind of raise your hand. We'll get you a mic and we'll, get your question answered for sure. I think kind of the segue where we're at is that as an assistant, a lot of the things these guys are doing coming into a studio, especially even for you, is to prep the session.
Right.
So maybe if you could talk to them a little bit about your, as most of mix engineers are, we're kind of hyper organized. We definitely like to have things a certain way, and Leslie has a way to work, I have a way to work, everybody has a way to work in the mix world, but maybe you could kind of illuminate where an assistant coming in should be, where you would want them to be, and give them some ideas on just the session prep that you're getting. As
an assistant, the first thing is I would want your mindset to be, I got to be as organized for Leslie as possible. You gotta, or for insert whoever you're working with, I gotta be as organized as possible for that person. And your approach should always be like Darren said, we're all neat freaks in one way or another. We're all organizational freaks. We have our different systems, but it's about being organized, because the thing about, and as an assistant, you learn this early. The thing about being organized is it keeps you from making mistakes. And that's the one thing you do not want to do, because sometimes a mistake could mean the end of your cycle with that person. I've seen mistakes be the end of people's careers, simple mistakes. So Darren's seen it too. So that's what your goal is, to be as efficient as possible and try to eliminate making mistakes. And so your approach to a session, I mean, just off top, can they see what I'm seeing?
Yeah. We can. They'll punch it up on the monitor, the Pro Tools session. There it is.
There you go.
So they can see exactly where you're at.
Instantly.
You got a mouse over there if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, because I'm a mouse guy. Oh, this mouse is all slow. I'll do it here. So initially, I like to just kind of take a brief overview of the session. I kind of arranged the session when I got it, so it wasn't as I'm pushing.
Yeah, maybe that's just real quickly. I mean, when you get something from somebody, there's, I'm going to say it in the nicest way that I can. There's a little bit of chaos. Because you're stepping into somebody else's house.
Exactly.
When they were recording it, they had things colored and laid out and everything else, and that time that it takes to get that to what you guys are seeing is Leslie's prep already.
Right.
So when you see that, you have to understand that at whatever astronomical fee he's charging per minute, he's like Adele. He makes like $3,000 a minute brushing his teeth. I'm just kidding. He's just won 3 Grammys. I mean, come on, his rate went at least twice what it was 2 weeks ago.
I mean,
I'm just picking on you. So when he gets it, that time frame it takes him to do this, it can be pretty extensive.
Yeah. And the first thing you want to do is kind of look at, like Darren said, you want to see what they had going on, see what the recording engineer had going on, and just kind of sift through the session and see what kind of buses they had and things. Certain vocals were grouped a certain way, and what you're looking at now is this, all the orange and red stuff you see. I believe it's Chris's vocals, and they did not look this organized, and they're still not super organized, but they didn't look half as organized last night. Let me see. I'm just playing a little piece of them. So.
Yeah, you know how it is, yeah. One rule, no catching, no feelings, yeah.
And before that is his rap. I think he kind of, Chris thinks he's a rapper.
Oh, Lord, it's a bunch of bad bitches. Know that killer, I'm about to be a victim.
Yes,
R.I.P., I'm about to get that, that's the business. I'ma lick her down in the bed, eating in the kitchen. Yeah, I'm about to make your jealous. Fly and propeller.
So, so I just kind of, my approach is I kind of listen to the tracks. Before anything, and just as a mixer, before I even touch anything, I have a conversation, with whoever I feel is going to be the driving force in deciding how this record is going to be approved. And in this case, usually when R. Kelly is involved with a record, R. Kelly is the end-all, say-all. So I just his management is who contacted me to mix this record, and I just kind of diverted to him, and he was just kind of like, bro, do what you feel. I know you've mixed some Chris Brown records. Just have me sounding, all vocalists want to be loud. So he's
well, that brings up a great point. What if, you're friends with Chris. So, Chris hears the mix, and he's going to call you directly and say, man, can you do something with my vocal?
Yeah.
He's going to do this behind R. Kelly's back. This is every artist on the planet is going to do that.
And then I become something other than a mix engineer. I become part psychologist.
Yeah.
I got to become Barack Obama. I got to be the best politician ever. I got to be kind of like a babysitter because somebody's going to feel some kind of way. So, definitely all those elements play into it too, where now I got to kind of figure out, okay, I get R. Kelly's vibe and I know what he wants to do. And because I know Chris and I know what he likes, he's kind of easy to please. So all vocalists are the same thing. Just turn them up loud. Just make sure they're loud and they're good. Vocalists are all about vocals. They don't care about anything else in the song. Most of them don't. They just want to be loud.
Except Pharrell, he's the opposite.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But he's a producer at heart.
Exactly.
So but when they're just vocalists and all they do is sing, that's all they care about. So you learn how to, that's part of the game too, is you got to learn how to please your client. You have to learn in this situation how not to piss one off and please one but piss the other one off. So it's all that kind of stuff is builds up to having a good career. It's not just the technical stuff. It's knowing how to navigate these sticky situations, knowing how to talk to the egos. I mean, it's R. Kelly. He's been in the game for years, so I can't call him and be like, "Hey, dog, this note kind of flat." You don't approach it like that, because you got to know how to talk to them and how to have some type of dialogue and productive conversations out of this. So. Like I said, I have a basic approach to how I approach all mixes. I like to start with vocals first. So I tend to kind of just focus on the vocals and see where the backgrounds are, what they're doing. R. Kelly has a way of, a lot of his vocals sound very in your face. He doesn't like too many effects. He likes things to be very, natural. And I mute the track before I even start doing anything else. I'll mute the track and just kind of.
Yeah, you know what it is.
That's
Yeah.
R. Kelly's
One
vocal.
rule, no catching, no
Now,
feelings.
if you notice-
Yeah, I ain't seen no ring on it. Put on a mic and I made a sing on it. Yeah, keep it 100.
If you notice this, let me do this real quick. If you notice, this particular track is what you were hearing, the one that's kind of large, the blue one, and that is a culmination of. Let me do this just so y'all can see what is really happening here. All right, so let me back up. Sorry, y'all, I'm not used to working on a laptop. So that blue track is a culmination of all the gray tracks you're going to see grayed out below it.
So this is what we call the vocal comp.
Yes, so all the grayed out tracks, all those.
Did you comp it or did they comp it?
I did.
Okay.
It came to me like this.
Came to you all spread
But
out.
it was so many voices, I couldn't even play the damn session. So
Sure,
I had
sure.
I had to find a way to play the session. So
You can
those
play it all on
tracks.
that laptop.
Huh?
I'm just messing with you.
Right. Mix on the laptop and some headphones on the flight back to Atlanta.
It'd be done, man.
But so all those vocals are what you're hearing. That's pretty much this whole piece right here.
I think this session's like 90 tracks, maybe 86 tracks, I think, total.
It's ridiculous. And so, so I had to kind of comp all those.
Yeah.
And what I did is I didn't even do too many tricks, or I kept the panning that they had going on. I kept the relative volumes that they had going on because I liked the feel of it. I thought it felt cool. And a lot of times my mentality is if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality. I don't go in and just zero everything out and just start from scratch. I like to try to build from the vibe that they had, because part of what makes people like songs is how the context in which they were hearing the rough mix.
Do you know who recorded this one?
I don't. If I had to guess,
So-
it would be his engineer probably did his vocals, and Chris's engineer probably
Right,
did.
which is really cool because if you go to Mix Window real quick and kind of show them, they didn't put a bunch of stuff on this track.
No, they
This
didn't.
wasn't like a major pre-mix or anything. It came to it. It's relatively clean as far as
Yeah.
giving him the ability to there's no
Yeah, so
a
these are
couple
all the tracks. Yeah,
little
there's not
things.
much on them. They had like slight de-esser, the R-Vox on a couple things, but it wasn't a whole lot going on. And that's how he likes his vocals. He likes them dry, in your face, not a whole lot of effects. And so I just kept the integrity of what they had. So what you're hearing is pretty much how their vocals sounded when I pulled them up. And then I would take this blend that I made, and then I can do my little vocal rides here and there based on what's happening with the track. But I'm not trying to reinvent his wheel, so to speak. I'm not trying to take his blends and move the high notes somewhere else. And he liked how those high notes sat in that particular blend for a reason.
And
Let's just go with
once you get this vocal set, are you bringing the track in piece by piece, or are you then putting the vocals away for a while and going and working on the track and then trying to piece the two together?
Right. I usually do it the second way. I put the vocals away. After I kind of get a feel for what all the vocals are doing, I'll start muting all the vocals, and then I'll move to the track, and I'll start, listening to what's going on with the track. This particular track, I can see they had a couple
When did you start this
filters.
color scheme?
Say it.
When did you start the color? I know your tracks are always yellow, and your
Oh
leads
yeah,
are red.
I don't know when I started that. That's just,
I would put money that you guys, there's hundreds of sessions that he can open any one of them now because of this current color scheme.
Yeah, and they all
that
look like
are
this.
exactly the same.
Yeah.
So if he's got to jump from track to track, he doesn't have to search through whatever. The organization, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because this color coding is obviously for us. It's you guys have had it the whole time, but for us this is a rather new thing. So
right, yeah. Back in the day, color coding was
Gray.
different color Sharpies on
Yeah.
the, like, so I would write, it's funny because actually the color coding started from them.
Yeah.
My lead vocals on, when I used to mix on a desk, my lead vocals would be in a red Sharpie.
right.
And then I altered it a little bit. My track would be in a black Sharpie. My backgrounds would be in a blue Sharpie. So I had a little
it
color
all
code
moved forward,
going on
yeah.
back then. But it's important, like Darren was saying, because I can open any session and I know, okay, those are my leads. Those are somebody's leads. And then I know down here, usually in orange, I'll put like verse background parts. So I know those are little backgrounds that jump in during the verses. My hooks and my main hook backgrounds are blue. And all my yellow, anything you see in the yellow is an aux track. Like, so that's the music aux track right there. And then all my instruments are usually this brownish, beigeish, I don't even know what color this is. Off-white, mother of pearl, whatever.
Same.
Yeah. So, and then I usually put the rough mix in like purple or some, mauve. I don't know what you call those colors up there. Now, you got to please my daughters, they got to see something pink going on the screen,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's important to be able to just kind of, even the way you navigate the session and jump around from track to track and scroll through, your eyes want to be able to lock in on things easily and not fumble around and be like, and even when the artist is in the room, it helps, because if Gwen is leaning over my shoulder, she now knows my system to where she can look at the session and she can be like, hey, Les, can you turn up my lead right there? And she can point to her lead because she knows my system and she knows, oh, those are my leads. Let me point out the one I want him to, and it makes our communication easier. So, I've experienced that a lot. When I work with Andre 3000,
Yep.
he's very visual, so he's very much like pointing at this. I always we had this running joke every time he comes to the studio, my screen has a bunch of fingerprints because he's always touching my damn screen. And,
Right.
I'm anal about that.
It
so
doesn't
I'm
work
like,
in my work because I have the touchscreen now. So
yeah. I got the screen cleaner. I'm like, but he's always like, yo, this vocal right here, let's move that lead and put that there. But it helps him to communicate well with me when he can visually see how organized the session looks. And I've actually had a client and a couple clients say, man, who was I working with? I want to say it was Pink, if I'm not mistaken. She walked in one time and she was telling me something. And she said, you know what, Leslie? You're the first engineer that I worked with where I can actually point out my vocal because I know what everything is. Like, her other engineer that she usually works with drives her bonkers that he never color codes.
Yeah.
So when
It's
she
huge
looks
for the
at it,
artist.
she can't even tell him what vocal. She's like fumbling, looking like, and so she even, the fact that she made a comment about it told
well, and that's
me,
repeat
okay.
business for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that makes you, even though you didn't really do anything different,
Right.
it makes you look good
That makes you stand out.
and makes you stand out,
It's
and
the
then
little
the artists want
things.
to come back to that.
Yep. Any questions? I like to, I can sit here and blab all day about mixing,
We
but
got
I like to also
When there, she's
kinda
coming to you with the mic right now.
get a feel for what you guys want to know and hear and ask me anything, and don't be scared.
Yeah, how's it going? My name
Good,
is Hawaii.
going good.
I was just asking before you mix, like, do you get like a little, inspiration, like listening to music, and different, like?
That's a good question. Usually, yes, and it's usually from that conversation that I said I have. Like, so for instance, Happy was a good example. When I was mixing Happy, one of the first things Pharrell called and said, look, we're going to be working on this Despicable Me movie. I want to send you these records. Happy wasn't the first song I mixed from that soundtrack, but I remember the conversation when he sent Happy, and I was like, okay, so where you want to go with this? What's your feel? What's your direction? And he said a couple of songs, like he was like, I think he named off like Earth, Wind, and Fire. He kind of wanted to have that Hey Ya feel, the Andre 3000 song. And he named off a couple of records. So for me, that's like a cheat sheet. He's telling me what he wants his record to sound and feel like, and while we're on the phone, I'm sitting there writing the titles down, and then I'll go listen to the records we talked about. So those records were my inspiration for Happy, and getting a feel for what he really was looking for. was important.
Cool. Yeah, there's another one right back there.
Oh.
Hello, Mr. Leslie. My name is Brian Gamble. I'm in music production.
Where you at?
Right
Where
here.
you at? Oh, yeah, okay.
He's behind the post.
I have a question. Actually, mixing vocals. What is your favorite mixing technique for mixing vocals?
I try not to be too rigid when it comes to techniques. For me, there are things that I do that are pretty standard, and then there are things that I do where I don't try to approach things where I just have a set way of doing things. You still got to kind of feel what's going on with the track. And so what I'm saying is, usually on vocals, I'll start with a de-esser. My theory and my approach is I take away the things I don't like first, and then I add what I want to add. So I kind of approach it like, I always say if you're going to clean up a room, before you start spraying Windex on surfaces, you got to remove the things out of the room that you don't like. So if the room is junky and there's clothes all over the floor, you can't even vacuum the floor unless you pick up the clothes. So I kind of use that theory when I approach vocals. If there's something about the vocal I don't like, I take away before I start adding. You see what I'm saying? So for me, S's right off the top, the harsh S's. And so I start with a de-esser. I might do some light compression, and then I'll do some EQing after that. EQing is usually my last step because
Which de-esser?
I like the Renaissance de-esser still. I'm still rocking the Renaissance. It's so basic, and it's a de-esser. It just de-essers,
It does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, so I like it. I've gravitated a lot more to a lot of the UAD plugins over the years. UAD stuff is amazing, and they have a real analog feel to them, and but they still sound good sonically. So I could sit here and tell you most of my vocals, you will see a de-esser, a compressor, you'll see the Renaissance compressor, and then you'll see either an SSL EQ or some other type of EQ. But that doesn't mean that's the format for how I do all vocals. Case in point, happy. There is no S in the word happy. No need for a de-esser on the track. So when I get sessions like that.
And before you get off this one, a couple of times, I don't know, it was one of the things we did before, in the classroom or whatever, but you mentioned that one of the things you hate and one of the things you hate to see is when people put de-essers on and then have this food chain of all their compressors and then have the last is an EQ where they've taken the 10K they just took out here and they put 12 dB of it on the bottom end of it. So maybe go into that a little bit.
At that point, I'm looking at that and I'm seeing, okay, you're just doing stuff to be doing stuff. And you can easily get into that mind frame of thinking, oh, I have a system. This is what I do. I just throw de-essers on vocals. Well, if the vocal has no S in it, there's no need for that. So you have a system, but you still have to tailor your system to what's going on. You still have to pay attention to what's happening in the song. And just like Darren just pointed out, I don't think there's anything that just cooks my bottom more than that. I'm talking about I'll open a session, and just like Darren said, it'd be a de-esser or EQ, and they'll boost the shit out of a frequency on the first EQ. And then by the end of the chain, they got another EQ on there, cutting back the same frequency they boosted. And it's like, why? You're not thinking at that point. So you don't want to just be throwing stuff on tracks to be throwing them on there. You want to kind of
right here in the middle.
Have some sense about what you're doing. And
so we're going to actually go to an online question real quick.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi.
I have a question from Ash Smith. He wants to know, how did you promote yourself as a startup in the beginning to get work? Because he's curious about your business practices, how you source new clients, and how you go from being a startup to where you are now.
That's a very good question. And that's a very good question for this generation right here. Okay, I like to call y'all the entitlement generation. I'm about to sound like, I feel like I sound like my dad right now.
Yeah.
But y'all are the entitlement generation. And for me, promoting myself was as simple as doing good work. And not just, oh, I went to Full Sail, I have a degree, now I want to just push buttons and mix records. Promoting yourself means, and y'all paying attention? Everybody listening? Promoting yourself means, if my job for the day is to take out the trash, it's going to be the best trash taking out job you ever seen in your life.
You're going to organize the bags in the trash can.
Because if somebody says to me, and this has happened in my career repeatedly, Darren can sit here and tell you the same thing. I've had people walk in and say, damn, that damn Leslie boy, he be having this studio looking so clean. And if they feel that way about how you take out the trash, they will trust you with the next important thing, and so on and so on. So you promote yourself by doing every damn thing you do it well. Stop worrying about handing out business cards and saying, if you got to tell somebody you're a producer, you're not a producer.
We had
as
that
that.
discussion in class. So most of these guys, any of these guys that have had our advanced recording class, and some of you guys that are coming into it, we have a long discussion about self-titling.
If I walk into it right now, if I walk into a room with Mary J or whoever, and I gotta say, hey, I'm Leslie Brathwaite, I'm a mix engineer, I ain't worked hard enough yet. When I walk in a room at this point in my career, somebody in that room is supposed to know what I do.
Well, Mary J is going to
should
say Leslie's the mix engineer.
Right. But somebody should be able to introduce me and say, hey, this is Leslie, he mixed so-and-so, da-da-da. So fresh out of school, you having a business card saying what you think you do, you don't do that. I do that. You don't do that. And that's the thing that I want y'all to really grasp is, you know, I'm walking around in Lenox Mall at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I got cats coming up to me talking about, hey, man, I got me a record label, man, da-da-da. You ain't got no record label. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You in the mall. Like, you know what I mean? So you promote yourself by doing good work. Somebody will notice because it's very rare, and I notice it all the time. When I ask somebody to do the littlest job, if they do it well and they're detailed and they're meticulous and they make sure they got it right, that's the person I want to teach, because those are the things I can't teach. I can't teach you how to want to do something right. I can teach you how to mix a record, but I can't teach you how to want to mix it right.
Can we we'll do another question right here? We'll get. She's coming to you. She's coming down the stairs.
Why are you ducking?
Yeah.
I ain't gonna shoot nothing.
I don't know. Hello.
Stealth.
Hi.
My name is Bianca Pernice. I'm an RA. I have a really simple question, and that's if you are a snacker, what do you snack on when you are mixing? Excellent.
And the kind people at Full Sail, they just know me so well. So they always have these on deck when I come. I tend to, from time to time, I don't like to do it a lot because it's bad for my teeth and everything else, but I tend to chew gum to kind of clear my earways sometimes. But that's about it. I like sweet tea, you know.
Maybe elaborate a little bit on that. I mean, how kind of a multi-level question, but how loud do you mix? What do you do to reset yourself? And, you know, does time become an enemy for you at that point?
Yes, and those are excellent questions. I usually don't mix too loud. When I'm mixing drums and bass and snares, I try to crank it up a bit to get the feel of those.
Give them an idea of monitors, too, while you're...
Huh?
Monitors, the monitors you're using, that kind of...
Oh, yeah. I also, my go-to monitors of life are the Focals. What are these? The Twin 6BEs is the ones I like, and I got the Solo 6 Sub. Those are my go-to. I don't even listen to the other monitors anymore, to be honest with you. I don't even listen to anything.
I have one set now,
anymore.
too.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
But I don't listen too loud. I try to listen at a nice even level. That's the time factor is why I start with vocals first personally, because vocals are less harsh on your ears. You can listen to vocals at a low enough level and do the things you need to do. When it's time to do drums and music, sometimes you got to feel it a little bit, and you do have to turn it up some. So I try to do that stuff later in the mix so I don't beat my ears up too early in the day. But I don't do the whole loud thing, you know, too often. And yeah, so, you know, and as far as resetting myself, I tell people all the time, take breaks often. Breaks are your friend. Breaks, it's kind of, and I know you all experienced it even with something else, where you're working on something, whether it's a puzzle or something that you're trying to assemble, and you just can't figure it out, and you're trying to build that IKEA bed, and then you can't find that one piece, and then you just take a break and go eat and come back, and you're like, oh, I could just do X, Y, and Z. Because you know with IKEA, you got to improvise. You got to come up with your own, it's that screw. You need that screw. So sometimes you just take a break. And taking a break helps relax the urgency in your mind to get to the end of your puzzle. And
when you're taking a break, are you inside or are you going outside?
I'm
obviously
playing
good
video
to
games.
I'm
a gamer.
Yeah.
So come see me if you want to see me
Battlefield?
on this Xbox.
Yeah.
Battlefield, Madden, Call of Duty. I've been playing the Battlefield Hardline beta when it was out for the past few days. Going in, I took a lot of breaks when that was out. I was taking breaks all day.
They're paying you for the break, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we get that clear.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to go to an online question.
Sure. So we have Julian. He's an online music production student, but his heart is in mixing. He wants to know if you think it'd be difficult for him to receive an internship in mixing since he's not in recording arts.
I think his approach would probably just be to intern at a studio and just kind of finagle his way there. I don't think he should target it or limit himself to saying, I just want to intern for a mixer. And usually that's how most internship programs work, where I don't have a specific internship program, but the studio I work at does. And then the interns then get to interact with me. So I would say to him, it's more so about the studio than it is the person.
And can we do another one?
Sure.
Mixing on headphones, good or bad?
I think it's a personal preference. I tend to not like it because the problem with headphones is they can't accurately reproduce, bass frequencies, and certain things are synthesized on headphones, and so you got to kind of. I've done it and I've seen it done. I actually mixed a true story. I mixed a Mary J. Beyonce record. I think it was on Mary's album. I can't remember whose album it ended up on. But it was a Mary J. Beyonce record I mixed on a flight from LA to Atlanta on some headphones. I did the bulk of the mix on the headphones. So it can be done. It's a personal preference. I would opt not to do it more often than not. I was pressed for time on that particular mix. But
I'd like to just go back a little bit on that last question, though. The mix world has radically changed from us working in the studios. You were at a major studio in Atlanta for a long time. The new place you're at is, I guess, Akon's place still?
Yeah, more of a boutique.
Yes. So mixers in general, because of the box, have moved out of the major rooms into small rooms, private rooms, more or less. A lot of times now we're not even interacting with the client. It's a phone call or a Skype or a...
It's a different sport. And like, for instance, with Pharrell, I've worked on tons of Pharrell projects over the past year. I haven't seen Pharrell in a year. I haven't seen him since, I think last year sometime we saw each other in LA.
Right.
But he still has yet to come to my room in Atlanta. He hasn't been to Atlanta in my room. And I've been working with him consistently for the past 3-4 years.
How, advice-wise for them, and obviously we don't want everybody to stalk you, but if you were in that situation of, okay, I really have my heart set, we've so compartmentalized ourselves into these private rooms, these small rooms. One of our other grads, he's like, yeah, my room's like 10 by 10, and I'm mixing Kanye's record and everybody else in here, and we don't use assistants a lot. I know that's not like you have people around you, but that's not your thing either.
Right.
So how do they get to be mentored by us, which is the way you and I came up, was underneath other people, whether it's a band or whether it's another mix engineer or in our case, recording engineers that taught us, the ropes, if you will. How do these guys, because we've pulled away.
And for me, and that's a very good question. For me, I've made it a point I saw myself get to that place where I wasn't teaching. And I hated it. I was miserable because I did get to a place where I was so fascinated by the fact that I could do what used to take, 3 days on a desk. I can do literally in 30 seconds on this.
Yeah.
And I got so engulfed in this, and then I forgot to teach. I forgot to have an assistant and somebody to teach. So what I've done is I still don't have an assistant because there's just absolutely nothing for them to do.
Right.
But I do mentor. I do have, there are times, any of the interns at the studio will tell you that I work at now, I'd be like, hey, come in here and sit in on this session.
Yeah.
And just sit there and learn. And so I don't need them to do anything, but I still get a joy.
And that goes back to what you said of sit there and learn. Don't ask 400 questions. Don't,
Right.
you're
your
in the
moments.
groove, you're doing your thing, and,
Yeah.
and definitely pick the moment and
Yeah.
help them figure out how to pick that moment. Because I think when people get an opportunity, if I took any one of these kids and we go over to the studio and say Leslie's going to mix, it's difficult for them to hold back.
Yeah.
How can you help them
And you know what?
not piss you off?
And you know what I do? I've been a lot more aware of that, to where when I do something and I'm like, I bet they want to know what I'm doing right now, I'll stop myself and say, hey, just so you know, this is what I'm. And it happened the other night. I was working on an Akon song, and I pulled in. Khan and I had a conversation on the phone before the intern came in the room, and he wanted his song to sound like a specific Bob Marley song. And so I pulled the song into the session.
Sure.
And every now and then what I did is there was a specific break. Bob Marley was famous for those like timbali breaks.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a break that Akon kept saying, I want my drums to feel like that particular break. So I just sectioned the break out, and I would bring it in at a certain point in his song just to make sure, and I would swap out da-da-da. So when the intern was sitting there, I sat down and thought to myself, let me explain what I'm doing, because he might not know what the hell I'm doing. And I turned to him and I said, look, I had a conversation with Khan, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then he was like, oh, because I was wondering if that was you.
Well, that probably brings up the greatest point of not interjecting, because they weren't in on the conversation.
Right.
So if they think, well, he's doing something really whack or he's doing this, there's always more to the story
Exactly.
than you're seeing in a studio, in a control room, and I always tell everybody, read the room before because if, you got 5 different producers in a room, which we've both been in that situation where there's 5 heavyweights standing there, you don't know which one to talk to, because if you talk to the wrong one, it's over.
Yeah, and you read the room even if it's just one-on-one. I remember having a chance to be around Quincy Jones. He loves to teach. He loves to talk.
That was the Michael stuff that was it when you guys
With
were doing
Quincy
Michael?
Jones?
Yeah.
Well, he was just around the studio all the time.
Oh, I
Because
gotcha.
remember, Tamir used to be signed to him.
Yeah.
So when Dallas was working on
Yep.
Tamir, he would be over there all the time. So having a chance to talk to him, he's a talker. He loves to talk. And then there's other cats who are not so sharing and don't want to sit there and answer your questions all day. And so you read their vibe, and you just kind of, you got to know how to read the situation and kind of go, oh, so-and-so doesn't mind if I ask a question. Like, Chris Brown is way more talkative than Beyonce.
Right.
But doesn't mean Beyonce's mean. She's just quiet. She's to herself. She deals with a lot of shit daily. So
Yeah.
she doesn't really say too
Yeah, there's a
much.
lot going on while you're working.
Yeah, but she's not a mean girl. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
so you
How
kinda-
much are the clients with you now? Obviously, in the earlier days, it was pretty constant for your clients to you mix most of the day, and they'll show up at the end of the day, and you do your recalls. How much are you? You mentioned that Gwen's with you.
She
Some of the
came
time.
once, yeah.
Yeah, some of the time. But I'm just saying, like, is it pretty rare now to have a client
It is.
show up? Okay.
It is. It's more so, and it's funny because now most of the clients I work with, we all have kids. So our conversation and our interaction, even on Skype, Gwen's telling me about her boys, or Pharrell's telling me about his son, and me and Tian, of course, we talk about our kids all the time. So it's like we bond when we do have what is considered to be face-to-face, the Skype or FaceTime. But musically, we just do a lot of texting.
Sure.
Like, he'll just text and say, hey, man, mix
Are you
sounds
sending
great.
them MP3s? Are you sending them full res files?
Wave
files?
Wave files. I'm
40
sending them the same files I would send the mastering.
Okay, cool.
Some people, it's usually the rappers. They'll ask for MP3s because they want to listen on their phone.
On their phone, yeah.
Which is the dumbest idea.
Yeah.
ever. Judging a mix on your phone.
I hate that when you got to do them both. I noticed
And
even
then
in
you
this
actually call me back.
mix, there's the the mix track, and then there's the MP3 track.
Yeah, and then they
obviously.
call me back with like mix notes, like, yeah, can you turn the snare up? Oh, where'd you listen to it at? I'm listening on my iPhone. I'm just saying, I think the snare too low. Really?
Right.
On the little one mono.
So that's when you
speaker on
send them the
your
text message. I just changed your snare drum. You playing the same mix, and they're all good.
iPhone. Yeah. So I try to stay away from the MP3s, but sometimes they ask for it because they want to hear the mix while they in the club.
Have you had anybody with the way technology is moving so fast? Have you had anybody who's hitting you up to do the real-time mixing stuff? Obviously that's starting to become more relevant, but we're not there yet, I think.
Yeah,
but,
nah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's certain things you guys got to dive into, and there's certain things you guys got to just like wait for it to happen.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
coming.
Absolutely. So let's grab I think you had your hand up there for a while. We'll get the one in the blue. Okay, we'll get over there. Yeah, I can't see that end either.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get
I don't know
some
where our mic
questions.
went.
Questions. Who got the mic?
She's
Who
gonna
got the mic?
slide in there. Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, thank you. So I'm coming across my last few months at Full Sail, and of course, coming out of here, I have like my idea of what I want to come out of. But when you finished, I know your end product of when you come out, it never works out. You never follow exactly what you want to do. But what happened that got you those footsteps in the door that eventually, I know you said do whatever work in the studio, and I understand that. But what was your idea when you came out of Full Sail, and like that one just starts you on your journey?
I had a certain mentality, which is, yes, I went to school and I paid for an education, but I kind of approached it like I didn't know anything so that I can learn. I gave myself the opportunity to learn. And the problem with a lot of things, I was just discussing upstairs how I love change, because what change forces you to do is, yeah, you got used to one gadget and you mastered it. Okay, throw that out and learn a new one. And so when I got out of school, my mentality was, okay, learned a couple things in school, but let me see how this really works. Let me just observe. So I'm telling you, I was literally, that's it. It's not anything more than that. It was, I was willing to learn. I decided that I was going to do whatever it took to stay around, for them to want to keep me around. And my mentality was, I'm going to work so hard that you're going to want to give me a job. And not just work hard at what I went to school for. That was the thing I had to kind of ingrain in my brain early, like, okay, you're going to get out of school, but you're probably not going to touch a board for a while. So, you know what? Word, you need the trash taken out, you need the bathroom clean. One of the first tasks I had when I went to intern at DARP Studios is to clean out their storage space. I don't know if any of y'all ever tried to clean out a storage space that had never been cleaned out. It was centipedes and roaches, there was all kind of stuff in there. But when the studio manager saw that storage spot, he was so impressed. His name was John Rogers, and he was so impressed with the job I did that I knew I was on to something, because he talked about it all damn day. He told everybody how well I cleaned up the storage space. And I was like, I'm on to something. So
Which didn't have anything to do with music. Yeah.
It's just that. Had nothing to do with music. And I know it sounds counterproductive, but it's not. Because what I'm trying to figure out now, if you came to me and said, I want to intern at Music Box Studios in Atlanta, and I see you and I say, oh, that's the kid from Full Sail. I'm not trying to figure out what you learned in school. I know you're good. I went here. I know what you got. I know what you get coming out of here. I want to know how you think. I want to know how you problem solve. I want to know how resourceful you are. You know, if I ask you, I want to know if I could tell you to do something that you have no idea how to do, and I want to know if you can figure it out. That's my favorite line, figure it out. Interns will tell you that all day. They hate when I say it. So how to figure it out? Pick up your phone and Google it.
Thank you.
Y'all be on the phone with Snapchat and everything else, and I'm like, just Google it. Like, this entitlement general. I get so mad at y'all. I love y'all. I really do.
Hi, Ricardo Sangel from Recording Arts, and I have 3 quick questions. Do you use anything on the master bus?
Wait, I'm sorry. You said your name was
Ricardo Sangel.
Oh, I thought you said your first name was Awesome.
No.
I was about to be
It's
like,
my
that's the best name ever. Okay, go.
Do you use anything on the master bus, and which UAD plugins are your favorite, and do you use any stereo imager?
I try to stay away from doing things on the master bus, because when you get into that territory, you start then kind of messing with what the mastering engineer has to work with. So I don't want to do any limiters and compressors. I try to stay away from that kind of stuff. Sometimes, every now and then, what I'll do is I'll take the Precision EQ from the UAD bundle. I'll put it over the entire master fader and just turn the high end up all the way, like the frequency all the way, and then just gain it up a little bit to give it a little top end sheen on the mix. But I try to stay away from doing too much on the master bus. I try to let the mastering engineers have things, headroom to work with.
What's your favorite UAD plugin?
I mean, if I had to pick one, I would say the Little Labs Voice of God. It's a bass. It kind of helps
It's in there if you want
synthesize.
to show them or anything.
Huh?
It's in there if you want to.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Good idea. See, that's why he's here. Let's see. Let me show you my favorite one. I can show you better than I can tell you.
It's a 2-knob plugin that changes your world.
Yeah. That's fine. I gotta put it on something applicable. Where's my kit? Yeah, no, but there we go. All right, so where is it?
Just go native.
Huh?
Native.
Oh, bam. And then.
Yeah, you should go down to.
Oh.
Dynamic or EQ.
Yeah, you got yours set up different. Where am I going? Dynamics.
Yep,
Yeah.
there you go.
Where is it? Where is it?
It should be down there.
Oh, in the UAD, duh. It should be right around. No.
Little. We will find it.
We will. Is it in Dynamics though, or would it be?
Maybe in EQ.
Yeah.
Go to this pop
Let's see.
down.
There you go.
Yep.
Bam. All right. So yeah. So instantly you can kind of tell the difference. See how it adds a little roundness? I'm gonna boost it up just so you can kind of hear what it does. But so that's without. Feel the roundness on the bottom. And of course, if this room were.
If you want to do the
tuned
extreme,
and
go
all
to
of
the
this stuff.
preset and go to max low end. This will show you what it really does.
There you go. Am I up all the way? Yeah, you can hear it kind of punching through on that bottom. It's hard to hear in this room, but you get the idea.
Thank you.
So that's my favorite plugin.
So we're going to go to a couple online questions real quick, and then we're going to jump all the way over to you.
And then
He's
make
been
sure you
waiting
get
forever.
this young lady. She had her hand
Yep.
up for quite a I've seen you.
I think what we'll do is we'll come back, we'll hit him, and then we'll hit you.
All right.
We're going to go.
Julia, what up?
We have so many questions for you, just so you know. They're going very crazy online. Do you use Reverb, or do you have any tips about Reverb?
Yeah, I'm an Altiverb type of guy. I like
It's in there if you want to.
I like using a lot of big churches, that kind of thing, and I turn them down pretty low. I'm not a big reverb guy, so it's more so that kind of stuff because I don't gravitate to reverb a lot. I just kind of depend on the client, and if I know the client likes a lot of reverb, then I'll put it on there. But usually that's not my instinct. Reverb tends to sound too 80s to me.
You use delays quite a bit, though.
Yes, I'm a delay guy. I love delays. I love to fill the gaps with delays and set the mood with delays. I'm all about delays.
Anton would like to know, how do you balance your work and life when you're so involved in the industry?
That's a very good question. Well, recently, how that works is family wins. So today was a perfect example. I was supposed to get here yesterday and go to the WWE thing. And, Jay had this whole full schedule. And then, earlier in the week, I get an email from Zoe's school. Zoe's my oldest daughter. And they said she had a spelling bee this morning. And so I called Jay, on Tuesday, I think. And I was like, Jay, we got to rearrange everything. I can't come until Friday afternoon. So I wasn't about to miss her first spelling bee, much less any spelling bee. And so it's kind of, those are the decisions that you have to make, understand that everybody's life is tailored differently. I think I can make those decisions now because of where I am in my career. I think when you're in the earlier stages of your career, that balance, family doesn't always win. And then it's about your family. It's tailored to that person, because if your wife or children or spouse is understanding, then they can lose sometimes. And it's not that mine isn't understanding. I have the most understanding wife in the world. I'm here on tomorrow's Valentine's Day, and she could care less. But that's because that's who she is. But at the same rate, if I knew it was important to her, just like how I knew the spelling bee was important to my daughter, I made sure I didn't miss that. So it's about me making the choice. So that's a personal question. I mean, everybody's gonna have a different answer. But for me, now in my career, I always choose family first. And then Pharrell and Beyonce and everybody else gotta wait.
And then this is more of a technical. When mixing deep house or future house, how would you go about mixing the drums? Like how would you EQ the kick, snare, etc.?
I would probably use a lot of compression. It would probably be very aggressive. And I would probably go like real ham on the chest frequency EQs. And you want to get that oof, 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 oof.
Every channel would have voice of God.
Huh?
Every channel would have the voice of God.
Yeah, exactly. Voice of God. That's my default answer for everything. The voice of God, not the actual voice of God. The plug-in. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move. Where did Mike go? I don't know where the mic went.
To the right.
Oh, she's coming around.
Okay. And please don't. What's your name? Germany. Don't forget Germany.
No, we're gonna hit and
Germany.
We're
like
getting
the
down
country?
there on time. Leslie does have another appointment
Were you
tonight,
born in
unfortunately. So go ahead all the way over here.
My father was serving in Germany when I was born.
That's original. I like that. Okay.
Hello. My question is, when you were first starting as an intern, and then it's one thing that pretty much comes about dealing with people who are on the difficult side. What would be your advice for that?
You're talking about assholes. I can say it. In the early part of my career, and I would advise the same, you just got to suck it up and you got to deal with it. And you got to know that everybody's personality is not going to gel with yours. You understand the type of personalities you're dealing with. There are people who, I mean, and after doing it for so long, Darren can tell you the same thing. We've seen people rise and fall. So you kind of get past now when I see somebody acting like, a complete idiot because they're on the come up or they the new hot thing right now, I know it's not going to last. And so you kind of put it in a different perspective. Back then, it was just more so about, I wasn't here for that. I was in shut the fuck up mode. I was in, I'm here to learn. If you want to be an asshole, that's fine. If you want to take out your frustrations on me and it makes you feel better about your life, that's cool too. Like, I didn't let it affect my day I just had thick skin. I think you got to have thick skin in this industry. And I dealt with, I was around, I interned at Bobby Brown's studio and Whitney when they were wild and crazy, and I got cursed out for not sending out a FedEx that nobody ever even told me to send out. But I just stood there and took it. Like, I wasn't about to be like, oh, well, ain't nobody tell me to take out the FedEx. I was the new guy at the time. So you know what, Mr. Bobby Brown, high on coke, if you feel like you told me to take the FedEx out, we're going to run with that. I'm cool. Because you high and I'm not. So I know what really happened. And you just got to learn to, you let it roll off. Like, I'm being honest.
We're going to go to Germany.
Okay, well, my name is Germany.
Duh.
Right? I'm an RA major. So I have two questions.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to know, how important is it to have a background in theory when going into engineering? That's my first question.
How important it is to have a background in theory?
Music theory. Music theory, yeah.
It's not extremely important, but at the same rate, it will definitely give you an edge in a sense of you'll know how to tune vocals probably better than your colleagues. So, like I said, I know engineers that know nothing about music and notes and everything else, and they do just fine. But I happen to know a thing or two about notes, and I can pick up a guitar and make my way around it. I know how to play the keys. I know scales. I know notes. I know sharp, flat, blah, blah, blah. And it's helped me be a better engineer, and it's helped people to trust me. So when Gwen says, hey, Leslie, I really liked how you tuned my vocals. You know exactly what to do, and you didn't mess up. You didn't just slap an auto-tune on there and mess up some of my, major fifth something, because she knows music. Mm-hmm. And so for people who are educated like that with the theory and they feel like they can trust you. So it's important. It gives you another dimension, but it's not like the most crucial thing in the world. Like I said, I know a lot of engineers who couldn't play not one instrument, don't know anything about notes, and they do just fine. So,
Okay.
and your second question?
What console do you use? Because you said you.
Oh, I don't use any console. I'm
No?
strictly in the box. I'm like a bigger version of this. And I love the fact that you stood up when you asked your question. See, those are the things, and I want to stick on this. Those are the things that set people apart. She was the only one that stood up when she asked her question. She might be the only one that gets a job when she leaves here, if I was giving out jobs. And so I'm just saying.
That's slowly, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, those are the things I want y'all to walk away from this with. The distinctive things. Make yourself stand out. Find a way to make yourself stand out. I just thought that was something to do with how you were trained, your home training, just the way you deal with human beings. You stood up and you asked your question. Thought that was pretty impressive. The smallest thing.
Well, you know what I'm about to do, so.
Yeah. It don't matter now. Yeah.
Set precedence around, right?
No, I'm just playing. Yeah. My name is Sam.
And let me say this. I'm not saying that to be judgy of all of the rest of y'all that didn't stand up. I'm just using that as a tool to point out the things that you don't think separate you from others are the very things that do. And it's something about that detail would make me intrigued about Germany and what else is she
6 months from now,
detailed
she can come back to you and say, I'm the one who stood up and asked you the question. And
Exactly.
you're going to remember that.
Exactly. Exactly. So something about that detail can then tie me into her, and now I know, and now I'm figuring, oh, what else is she detailed about, and da-da-da. So that's all I wanted to point out.
Yeah, my name is Sam. I'm a RA, recording arts major. And I was actually in Miami at a conference that Diddy put on called Revolt Conference. And I talked to Dallas about your work ethic, coming up.
You were the one that asked that question.
I was the one.
Did you stand up when you asked it?
I did. Yeah.
Short story before you tell your story.
Yeah.
One of my friends sent me a video. It made me feel real good. They sent me a video of Dallas answering the question that he asked. And I didn't know who asked the question. And then you corresponded with me on Facebook
on
the other day.
Yeah.
So it was pretty impressive to see that Dallas went over. Remember what Dallas said about me taking out the trash? And it was impressive for me to hear my mentor and the person who I was trying to impress say that he paid attention to the way I took out the trash. So I'm not just sitting here blowing smoke. I thought it was very impressive that Dallas remembered that and was trying to impart that into the young generation. Like, look, it's about the details. It's about how you do the small jobs, da-da-da. So you wouldn't want to ask the question. All right, go ahead.
Anyway, I watched an event that you did here, probably in 2013, and you were saying that when you were coming up trying to get your foot in, Dallas, in the days of the tapes, Dallas had tapes that weren't loud enough, and you were the one that would make his tapes louder, however you do that in those days. But so what are some things that you could do in this day and age of technology that would kind of like set you apart, like back then, like how it set you apart with Dallas?
Sometimes it's actually the Germany who preceded you. She probably answered your question with what I was describing, which is sometimes it's not technology based. Sometimes it's just she took the time to stand up when nobody else did, and that stood out to me. So sometimes it's not about what you can do technically. Sometimes it's just your presence, just the way you present yourself. Sometimes it's what you don't say. Sometimes I gravitate to the person in the room that doesn't say much, as opposed to all the other ones that's asking me all the questions, the interns, da-da-da. Not saying y'all, I'm saying like, if I'm in a room full of interns, and so it's different things, and it's about, again, just making sure you're the best version of yourself that you can be, and don't try to. There's no cheat sheet to this. There's no set of answers that I can give you that's gonna work for all of y'all, and you take notes and you leave here going, oh, Leslie Brathwaite said if I do this, this, and this, or if I stand up, then I'm good. No, it's just, you know what I'm saying? It's different scenarios, different things. That kind of thing.
So we're going to do one more question. So I need everybody who has a question, which I know a lot of you do, raise your hand, and Leslie's going to do the lottery thing and pick the winner. Oh, he's got the mic. Look at him. So.
Nice to meet you.
Winner.
Lucky.
Okay.
Lucky. Now everybody's gonna hate me now. Nice to meet you. My name is Salvatore. I'm in RA. I have two questions actually. I don't know if you can do them both, but
Sure.
I'm gonna ask anyway. First is nowadays it's probably a different mindset for you. But back when you were still like upcoming as a mixing engineer, how much did you actually question your mixes? Like, you know, like asking feedback from other people or listening to your mix in different places?
I still do that now. That's the thing, is you don't want to think that just because I have Grammys and blah, 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 that I think that I'm this great mixer and I don't need to ask questions. I ask questions all the time. I sent my mix to one of my assistants the other day. His name is Corey Anders. He used to be a student here. And I just had him listen to it for me. I was like, check that out in your car. Tell me what you think. Da, da, da. Sometimes it's just good to get, other feedback. I've been listening to the same song for 2 days straight, so I just wanted to hear what he had to say. And instantly something jumped out at him. He was like, yeah, the overhead, he was like, actually it sounded great, but the overhead sounded a little loud. And I was like, you know what? It was kind of bothering me. So I'm still in that mode now. I'm still in that mode of learning and, I critique my mixes. To this day, I hear mixes and I'm like, man, I could have did that. Or, it's a lot less now than it was before, and it's a lot less neurotic. Because, when you're learning and you're coming up, it's like you're trying to figure out, should I have done that or is that wrong? And now it's less about that and more about, I wonder what it would have sounded like if I did this or X, Y, and Z. I did it the other day. I took my daughters to see the Paddington movie, and the song we worked on came in at the very end of the movie on the closing credits. And when I heard it, I was like, I remember sitting there thinking to myself something about the guitars and the snare, and my daughter is like jamming away because Daddy did this song, and ooh, this song is gonna pay for Disney World, and literally she says that, like she's
like buying Disney World. I think she's thinking.
Yeah, she really says that. So, but I'm sitting there thinking, man, I could have turned this up, or I could have did that. So I'm always in that mode, always. I never look at it like, oh, I feel like I know everything there is to know about mixing. Not even close.
Well, my second question actually relates to that. What do you think is the best way to get different reference when you're mixing a pop song? Like, do you listen to it in your car, or some people love that, some people hate that, or do you, go to?
I think I used to be like that a lot early in my career, where I would take it to the car and listen to it. I tend to most people listen to mixes, sadly, on their phones, on their headphones. And I just try to jump around to different things and see how it sounds and bounce around to, different little speakers. Like, I'll have different speakers in the studio. I mainly mix on the focals, but I jump around to the other little speakers and check it out. So it's less about trying to perfect the mix, but sometimes it's just cool to hear it in another context. When I was on the plane just now, I was listening to, I put all my stuff in Dropbox to send to my clients, and I was on the plane just listening to certain things in Dropbox, just getting a feel for how they sound in headphones and, that kind of thing.
We got one more right over there.
Hi, Leslie. My name is Tanika, and I'm an RA student. My question is, when you were in transition from a student to an intern to, your career, how did you find time to balance, mixing and honing your craft as well as, being the student and waiting, like not waiting for your moment, but kind of like being prepared for your moment? You know what I mean?
I wasn't focused on mixing as much. For me, I was always focused on honing whatever. It was a two-step process for me. It was whatever the task was at hand and whatever I knew the next step was going to be. So as an intern, I'm trying to make sure I clean the bathroom the best, and then I'm trying to see what the assistants are doing. How can I be the best tape machine aligner, blah, blah, blah. And then as an assistant, I'm focusing on that job, and I'm saying, ooh, how could I be a better recording engineer? Ooh, maybe I just won't smoke weed in the sessions, and maybe I won't talk so much. I would look at all the things the guys were doing wrong and say, oh, I won't do that. You know what I'm saying? And it was about the next step. I wasn't even thinking about mixing when I was in all these other phases. Mixing was the furthest thing from my mind. And a lot of students, I think, make that mistake when mixing is what they want to do, and so that's what they're focused on, and that's what they're always trying to practice, but it's the steps that get you there. That's the stuff you need to be worrying about mastering from one step to the next. So like I said, as an intern, my only focus in life was how do I be a great intern and how can I be a great assistant? I wasn't even thinking about recording or mixing. I wasn't asking mixers questions and asking recording engineers questions. I was following the assistants around, trying to know what they know. How did you get your job? Because your job is the next step. So that was my mentality.
Cool. Well, I just want to take a quick minute to thank Leslie for coming in here and talking to you guys because, yeah, you know, he's one of the probably most sought after, you know, look, the Grammys are an important part of our industry. There's, you know, pros and cons to everything, but as a mixer, as a recording engineer, you know, the next few months of his life go crazy from that one event. And, you know, his success has always been bred off of success. You know, like Leslie said, you know, you listen to his records, you know, the craft that went into it is quality work, you know, whether it was Pharrell or whether it's Gwen or whether it's whoever, the record's always going to be there. You know, and he took his time to come out here and see you guys and do this tonight. And, you know, he is a newly 3-time Grammy-winning engineer, and you know, I just like to thank him personally, and I think, you know, yeah.
Thank you, sir.